So it was at that point I knew that I screwed up. So the story of my worst purchase on eBay sort of goes back to my senior year of high school. It was around this time that I was looking for a bass clarinet of my own that I could play both in the band and bring home so that I could practice at home. Now, I really didn't have a lot of money at this point, so I was pretty much looking for the cheapest bass clarinet I could find. And at that time, it was a very, very beat up Bundy. Now, most people would hate to play a Bundy, but I was super excited to have a bass clarinet that I could actually call my own. I mean, that thing was trashed. Pads falling out, keys falling off every other day, screws rusted in. I mean, I sort of learned how to fix instruments on that thing. I kind of replaced some of the pads and unstuck some of the screws, and I got to the point where it could play, but it really didn't play well. So, after getting that thing and fixing it up a bit, I started to really want at least a better bass clarinet. Maybe not a professional bass clarinet at that point, but something better. And most of my instruments I purchased from eBay, and it was at this point that I started kind of browsing eBay more and more often to try and look for instruments that I could pretty much afford, but also fix up to save a bunch of money from buying a bass clarinet from a music store. And I happened to be browsing eBay one day, and something really, really piqued my interest. It was a Normandy bass clarinet, and it was an auction for starting at $100. Now, it's not unusual for auctions to start at low prices, but something about this, it just immediately threw up red flags. First of all, the the auction description really didn't have much in it. It just said clarinet for sale, and the title was something like clarinet. It's like, okay, that's a weird title for a bass clarinet, but whatever. I'll watch it and see where it goes. And it sort of got to the point where it was a day left, nobody bid on it, it's still $100. I thought, I don't care how beat up this thing is, $100 for a bass clarinet? I'll take it. So I kind of got some money together, like gift cards, my savings, and just got enough money to bid on that auction. And then I bid $100, and the timer's clicking down. In 5 seconds, I place my bid, and I'm just waiting for somebody to outbid me. There's no way this bass clarinet's going to sell for $100, right? So, and then the auction ends, and I get a bass clarinet for $100. At this point, I am ecstatic. I mean, a bass clarinet for $100, a decent one that I could afford. I mean, yeah, of course, the Normandy's not a great bass clarinet, but for me, somebody who had been playing that beat-up Bundy for so long, it was just so nice to have at least a little bit better bass clarinet. The Normandy isn't really that much better than the Bundy, but it's a two-piece model. This one had a floor peg, my Bundy didn't. It looked a lot nicer, better shape, so I was pretty excited. So immediately I make my payment, and I contact the seller and ask him, hey, so I'm really excited to play this thing. When do you think you'll be able to ship it? And that was when things started to get a little bit sketchy. So I email him. He takes a day or so to reply. He's like, yeah, I've never really shipped anything before, so just cut me a little bit of slack. I'll try and get it out as soon as I can. And that's fair. I mean, everybody had to start at eBay at some point. So, I can cut a little bit of slack. I mean, I got a freaking bass clarinet for $100. What do I care? So, it was around the fourth day that I started to get a little bit nervous. I mean, he could have shipped this out by now, and if not, he could have at least told me why he's having trouble getting it out. So I email him again. It's like, hey, I know it's been a few days. Do you think you'll be able to get that bass clarinet shipped today? And he's like, dude, look, chill. I'm gonna get it shipped out. And I mean, it didn't say that exactly, but you could tell his tone was starting to get a little bit more aggressive. I didn't say anything to provoke him at this point. He's just angry that I'm emailing him so often about this bass clarinet. And I guess I can understand that. I don't want to be a pushy person, but it's just throwing up red flags here and there. And I say, okay, that's fine. And I think at the point where it got to about a week, where the bass clarinet still hadn't shipped, and this is when I started to get really nervous. It's like, dude, please ship the bass clarinet out today. I just kept sending him emails like that, and he kept replying, I'll get it out, don't worry. So finally, I'm like, dude, ship the bass clarinet out today, or I'm asking for a refund from eBay. And I couldn't actually do that because eBay has a weird policy where you have to wait a certain number of days before you can even request a refund, and then they have to open a case. At least that's how it was when I bought this. And I guess he didn't know that because he immediately said, you know what, I shipped it out, and he gave me a tracking number. So don't know why it took him a week to do that, but that's how it worked. So I come home one day and I see a package sitting at my door. And it was at that point that I knew I had screwed up. So a bass clarinet you'd expect to come in a box maybe like 4 feet long, pretty big, right? So the box I had on my doorstep was tiny. It was barely the size of a clarinet case. And immediately I knew there's no way a bass clarinet is in that thing. So I rush inside, I grab a pair of scissors, I open up the box, and pull out a very beat up and very broken Bundy B-flat clarinet. And I think, okay, why did he send me a B-flat clarinet? He said he had pictures of a Normandy bass clarinet. What the heck is going on? And at that point I just realized that I got scammed on eBay. So at that point I was freaking pissed. Like, I had saved up for months, all that money. You know, it was pretty much all I had at that point. So this was months worth of work gone into a broken, beat up Bundy B-flat clarinet. And it's worth saying it didn't even play. Like, the description at least said that I believe it said it played, or it was under like used. So like the condition was shows scratches or dents, but functions perfectly. So I was at least expecting something that would play. But this instrument was just complete junk. So I immediately get on eBay and I send this guy a message. It's like, hey, this doesn't look like the pictures at all. This isn't a Normandy bass clarinet. And then the guy's like, I was selling a clarinet. I sent you a clarinet. No refunds. So, great. What am I going to do with this piece of crap? So I started to do a little bit more research on eBay's return policy. And I realized that what I had to do was I had to open a case. And I have to wait a certain amount of days. And then I can escalate it to eBay and say, this is not what I ordered. These don't match the pictures at all. And then I could get my money back. Okay, great. But I was reading a lot of horror stories on the internet about people who had something like this happen to them and they could not get their money back. So I was really nervous. This is one of my first experiences on eBay, and I already screwed up. So I open a case. I say, hey, the pictures were of a Normandy bass clarinet, and this is a B-flat clarinet. And the guy freaking tries to say that, no, this instrument you have is exactly the same as the one in the pictures. Okay, so let me take some pictures of the instrument and I can show them next to the pictures that you put in the description. And he still says, no, that's the same instrument. I'm like, okay, how about this? The instrument in the pictures, there's a case that's holding the clarinet. I never received a case, so I didn't receive something that was in the description, therefore the sale is not as described and I can get a refund. The guy still says, no, I didn't say I was selling the case. I said I was selling a clarinet. And it was at this point that I knew this guy was either an idiot or he was like a 12-year-old, which I could see. I mean, actually at this point I was even too young to technically be on eBay, but still, what are you going to do? So I fight back and forth with this guy, and I start to wonder, where did these pictures of this bass clarinet come from? So I do a Google reverse image search, and the first thing that shows up is a listing for a Normandy bass clarinet for $700. So I guess I should have realized that there's no way I was getting a Normandy bass clarinet for $100, but I was new to eBay and I really didn't know what I was doing, so it happens. And I show him, hey, this is where the pictures came from. You stole them from this website. He's like, no, there's no way. They must have stole them from me. It's like, okay, this website has more pictures than you have, so how did they get those extra pictures? Still, he says that I'm not refunding you your money. So it just pretty much goes on like an argument like this, back and forth. I think, great, what if eBay sides with him somehow? What if I lose my money? And this whole week I was just stressing out. So it finally gets to the point where I can escalate the case to eBay and they'll make a decision. So I give him one more chance. Dude, just let me send the clarinet back, give me my money, and we can just forget this whole thing happened. No, I'm not going to refund you your money unless eBay makes me. Okay, if that's how you want to play, escalated the case to eBay. Like 3 days later, eBay says, "We're sorry about this, we're refunding you your money and giving you a return label to send your instrument back." And best of all, they actually charged him for the return shipping. So, if anything, I would say he got scammed, because now, on top of getting this, having to refund me all my money, he now has to pay 20 something dollars in shipping fees for an instrument that he didn't even sell. So, in the end, I didn't end up with my good bass clarinet that I wanted, at least not until I started to get a job and I started to buy better and better instruments. But it sort of worked out in the end. So I guess the moral of the story would be careful about buying instruments on eBay. There are some great deals to be had out there, but there's also scams and instruments that aren't as described that you have to be careful about. So I would say read the descriptions, do your research on what you're buying, who you're buying from, and just be smart. Right, so thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this. In addition to this, I also post project videos and reviews of instruments. Also, please feel free to check out my Instagram at Wind Instrument Repairs. I also post pictures of my projects where I repair instruments. All right, thanks everyone.